Loneliness teaches her self-worth beyond the need for others' validation. For many people, self-worth is often tied to the opinions, appreciation, or approval of those around them. When others clap, they feel valuable. When others criticize, they feel diminished. But for a woman who has walked through seasons of loneliness, there is a powerful transformation that takes place. She slowly learns that her value cannot be borrowed from the applause of others. She learns that even in silence, even without recognition, she still matters, and she still carries worth within herself. Loneliness is a heavy teacher. In the beginning, it feels like emptiness, a void that craves to be filled. It feels like rejection, as though life itself has abandoned her. But as time passes, loneliness strips away the illusions she once held. She realizes that if her happiness depends on others, it will always remain fragile. So, instead of waiting for others to affirm her, she begins to affirm herself. She learns to sit in the quiet and still feel whole. She learns to look in the mirror and recognize beauty even without compliments. This shift is monumental. It is the beginning of true self-worth. When a woman finds herself alone, she begins to engage in conversations with her own soul. She questions herself, discovers her strengths, admits her flaws, and accepts both without judgment. This honest dialogue with herself teaches her that she does not need anyone else to tell her she is valuable. She knows it in her heart, and once she arrives at that point, loneliness no longer feels like punishment, it feels like a teacher. It becomes the silence that echoes the truth she had forgotten. Her worth was never dependent on the approval of others. It was always within her. Many people live their entire lives chasing validation, adjusting themselves to please others, dimming their light to avoid criticism. But the woman who has been through loneliness learns something different. She discovers that self-worth is not about fitting into other people's expectations. It is about embracing her uniqueness. She understands that she can be complete on her own, that she can celebrate herself even without external recognition. This realization empowers her to make choices not out of fear of rejection, but out of love for herself. Loneliness also gives her space to rediscover passions, dreams, and strengths she may have overlooked. In the absence of constant noise from others, she hears the voice of her own heart more clearly. She begins to pursue what brings her joy, not what gains her approval. She begins to live authentically, no longer wearing masks to impress the world. And this authenticity makes her stronger, freer, and more radiant than ever. The most beautiful part of this journey is that once she finds herself worth in solitude, she is no longer shaken by the opinions of others. Whether people praise her or criticize her, she stands steady because she knows her value is not determined by their words. This independence does not make her arrogant, it makes her confident, grounded, and unshakable. She can love others deeply without losing herself. She can walk alone without feeling incomplete. She can face rejection without doubting her worth. In this way, loneliness, once feared, becomes her greatest gift. It transforms her into a woman who does not just exist for others' approval, but thrives in her own acceptance. She becomes someone who carries a quiet glow, a confidence that does not scream, but speaks through her presence. And all of it was born from the lessons loneliness taught her, that her worth lies within, unshaken by the absence of support and untouched by the shifting opinions of the world. Silent battles are not about gaining sympathy, but about building courage and self-reliance. When someone suffers openly, the world often rushes to comfort them, offering words of encouragement, shoulders to cry on, or hands to hold. But when a woman fights her battles silently, it is not because she has no voice. It is because she has chosen to strengthen herself without relying on the applause, pity, or attention of others. She knows that sympathy, while comforting for a moment, cannot carry her through the weight of life. What truly carries her is the courage she builds and the self-reliance she nurtures along the way. Courage does not mean the absence of fear. It means walking forward even when fear whispers that she cannot make it. Each time she faces a silent battle, she proves to herself that she is stronger than her doubts. For instance, a woman struggling financially, but choosing to work day and night without asking for handouts shows immense courage. She may not broadcast her struggles, but in silence, she gathers strength to push through. Or think of the woman who endures emotional pain but refuses to allow bitterness to define her. This is courage at its finest. The quiet kind that no one applauds, but that transforms her character. Silent battles demand self-reliance. When no one is there to guide her, she becomes her own guide. When no one is there to hold her, she learns to hold herself together. Self-reliance is not about isolation. It is about building the confidence to know she can survive and thrive regardless of who stands by her. This independence allows her to make decisions with clarity. She does not wait for someone to rescue her. She becomes her own rescuer. She does not seek validation to move forward. She validates her own worth by the choices she makes. In every silent struggle, she builds a foundation that makes her less dependent on others and more anchored in herself. It is easy to underestimate the courage of someone who does not cry out for help, because we often measure strength by how loudly it is expressed. But true courage is often silent. It is the strength to wake up each day and carry on despite exhaustion. It is the ability to remain calm when chaos surrounds her. It is the choice to keep moving forward, even when the road ahead looks uncertain. This kind of courage cannot be measured by the world, but it is felt deeply within her soul. By refusing to chase sympathy, she also protects her dignity. Sympathy may comfort temporarily, but it can sometimes make one feel small or helpless. A woman who embraces silent battles knows she is not helpless. She is simply in the process of building herself. She would rather rise through her own strength than rely on temporary support that may or may not be genuine. This doesn't mean she rejects love or kindness. It means she does not depend on them for her survival. Her survival is her responsibility, and in shouldering it, she discovers just how powerful she truly is. Over time, these silent battles transform her. They make her courageous not just in facing her own challenges, but in inspiring others through her quiet example. People may never know the details of her struggles, but they sense the strength in her presence. Her silence is not emptiness. It is a sign of self-reliance, a sign that she no longer needs the world to tell her she is capable, because she has already proven it to herself. A woman's determination becomes her greatest companion in moments of isolation. When the world feels empty, when familiar faces turn away, and when support is nowhere to be found, she is left with only one thing that refuses to abandon her: her determination. Unlike people, determination does not disappear when times get tough. Unlike sympathy, it does not fade once the moment has passed. Determination grows stronger with every obstacle. And for a woman walking alone, it becomes the invisible hand that guides her through storms. Determination is not about never falling. It is about refusing to stay down. A woman who has faced isolation knows this truth better than anyone. Every time life pushes her to the ground, she looks within and finds the will to rise again. She may stumble, she may cry, and she may even pause in exhaustion. But quitting is not an option. Her determination whispers to her that there is still more ahead, that her journey has purpose, and that giving up would mean denying herself the future she deserves. This inner voice becomes her closest friend in moments when silence feels unbearable. Consider a woman building her career with no one cheering her on. She stays late into the night, working tirelessly, while doubts and fatigue threaten to overtake her. What keeps her going is not external encouragement, but her unshakable determination to create a life of dignity and independence. Or think of the woman struggling through emotional pain, rejected or misunderstood by those she trusted. While loneliness tries to suffocate her, determination fuels her to keep moving forward, reminding her that her story is far bigger than her current circumstances. These are not small victories. They are testaments to the power of persistence. In isolation, determination also serves as protection. It shields her from the temptation of self-pity. It prevents her from sinking into despair. It reminds her that while she may not control the actions of others, she does control how she responds. Each time she chooses determination over despair, she reclaims her power. She begins to see herself not as a victim of circumstances, but as a fighter, an overcomer, someone who has the courage to continue even when the path is dark. This determination does not make her hard or bitter. It makes her resilient. She learns that her strength is not dependent on how many people walk with her, but on how firmly she decides to walk forward on her own. With determination, she discovers creativity she never thought she had, problem-solving abilities she never relied on before, and courage that grows deeper with each passing challenge. Every success she achieves, no matter how small, becomes a victory earned by her own persistence. Over time, determination shifts from being a survival tool to being a source of empowerment. She no longer pushes forward simply to escape struggle, but to embrace growth. She realizes that determination has given her control over her destiny. It has taught her that even in the absence of support, she is never truly alone because her will to keep going is enough to carry her through. And with this realization, she stops waiting for someone to walk beside her. She walks with determination itself, and that is the strongest companion anyone could ask for. The strength gained from silent struggles makes her a quiet source of inspiration for others. What often goes unnoticed by the world is that every silent battle fought with dignity shapes not only the woman herself, but also the lives she touches. She may not seek attention, she may not broadcast her pain, yet her very presence carries an unspoken message. Strength is possible, resilience is real, and courage can be lived quietly without noise. People around her may not know her entire story, but they sense her depth, her calmness, and her ability to endure. And that becomes an inspiration more powerful than any words. Inspiration is not always loud. Sometimes it comes from simply watching someone live authentically, with grace in the face of hardship. A woman who has endured silent struggles does not need to announce her strength. It radiates naturally. The way she continues to smile despite hidden pain, the way she stands tall despite carrying heavy burdens, the way she treats others kindly despite her own wounds. These subtle acts speak volumes. Those who observe her cannot help but wonder, how does she manage to stay so strong? And in that wonder, they find motivation for their own lives. Her strength teaches others that it is possible to rise after falling. It shows that even without support, one can find the courage to keep moving. For the young girl who feels lost, she becomes a role model. For the friend who thinks they cannot survive heartbreak, she becomes proof that healing is possible. For the colleague overwhelmed by struggles, she becomes a quiet reminder that resilience is stronger than circumstances. Without preaching, without demanding, she inspires simply by being herself. Silent struggles also give her empathy, and this empathy makes her inspiration even more powerful, because she knows what pain feels like. She becomes gentle with those who suffer. Because she knows the weight of being unseen, she notices others who are overlooked. This compassion makes her influence genuine. People feel safe in her presence, not because she solves their problems, but because she understands them. Her strength is not intimidating, it is comforting. It whispers to others, if I could endure, so can you. Sometimes, inspiration does not come from achievements or recognition, but from endurance itself. The world may celebrate the loud victories, awards, promotions, public achievements, but the silent victories often have deeper impact. A woman who rises from despair without help has achieved something extraordinary. In the A woman who holds her family together without recognition has accomplished a quiet heroism. A woman who rebuilds her life after everything falls apart carries a story more powerful than any trophy. These victories inspire not because they are glamorous, but because they are real, raw, and relatable. Her strength becomes a legacy. Even if she never writes her story, even if she never speaks on a stage, those who know her carry her example in their hearts. A child raised by a resilient mother grows up believing that strength is natural. A friend supported by her compassion learns to carry themselves with dignity. A stranger who witnesses her kindness, despite her struggles, learns that humanity is still alive without seeking it. She leaves behind an impact that continues to shape others long after her struggles have passed. This is the quiet power of a woman shaped by silent battles. She becomes a living example that strength does not always shout. It sometimes whispers, and in that whisper, it awakens courage in others. Her story may be silent, but her strength speaks louder than words ever could. Life is full of battles, some loud and visible, others completely silent. And among the silent battles, one of the deepest and most powerful is the struggle of a woman with no support. It is not always a battle fought with swords or weapons. It is a battle of endurance, faith, courage, and patience. Many women live through this reality quietly, without applause, without recognition, and often without help. Yet, within that silence lies strength, resilience, and the potential to inspire the world. A woman without support does not cry for sympathy. She builds herself with what little she has. She learns to lean on her inner strength when there is no shoulder around. She learns to find her worth not in others' validation, but in her own courage to keep moving forward. Her silent battle is not her weakness. It is her story of strength. Every challenge she faces becomes a lesson. Every tear shed becomes a seed of wisdom. Every lonely night becomes a moment of self-discovery. And though she may not always have support around her, she carries within her the most powerful ally, her determination. We must understand this truth. No woman fights alone, even when it seems so. For every silent battle, there is a purpose. For every struggle, there is growth. And for every pain endured, there is strength gained. Let us respect, acknowledge, and honor the silent warriors who continue to fight battles unseen. Because often, the greatest victories happen in silence. The silent battle of a woman is often unseen, but it carries the weight of endurance and patience. When we think of a battle, we imagine warriors in armor, swords clashing, voices raised, and victories celebrated. But the battles that truly shape lives are not the ones that happen on fields of war. They are the ones that happen behind closed doors, in quiet rooms, in the silence of the night, and in the corners where no one is watching. A woman who fights such a battle rarely announces it to the world. She carries her burdens quietly. She wipes her tears before anyone notices, and she continues to smile so that her pain is not mistaken for weakness. This silence does not mean her struggle is small. It only means she has chosen patience and endurance as her weapons. Imagine the weight of fighting every day without applause, without recognition, and without someone standing beside you. For many women, life itself becomes a battlefield where their responsibilities, expectations, and personal dreams collide. She may face financial struggles, yet she manages to put food on the table. She may feel emotionally abandoned, yet she stands strong for her children, her family, or even just herself each morning. She wakes up with the same uncertainty, but also with the same courage to keep moving forward. This is not an easy life. It is a life of constant endurance. But what makes it extraordinary is the fact that she does not surrender. Her patience allows her to keep fighting even when it feels like the world has turned its back on her. Endurance is not simply the ability to bear difficulties. It is the art of carrying heavy burdens with dignity. A woman's silent battle reflects this truth. She may carry emotional wounds that no one knows of. She may deal with rejections, failures, or betrayals, but she endures without making the noise of complaint. In her silence, she is not passive. She is active in building her resilience. When she chooses not to retaliate against injustice with anger, it is not because she is powerless, but because she understands the strength of patience. When she chooses not to reveal her struggles to everyone, it is not because she has nothing to say, but because she has chosen dignity over pity. It takes tremendous strength to suffer silently. We often believe that loud voices are the strongest, but sometimes the strongest voice is silence itself. Silence speaks of inner control. Silence speaks of faith that a new day will come. Silence speaks of trust that her endurance will eventually turn into growth. The unseen battle of a woman is not about proving her strength to others. It is about proving to herself that she can withstand storms without losing her essence. Patience is her shield. She knows that rushing through life will not remove her problems. She accepts that hardships are part of her journey, but she also believes that storms do not last forever. In her heart, she carries the hope that pain will one day turn into purpose. This patience does not mean she is waiting passively for life to change. It means she is actively cultivating strength, discipline, and wisdom while holding on through the darkest times. And while the world may never see the full weight she carries, every silent tear, every unspoken prayer, every moment of endurance builds her into someone stronger than she was yesterday. The unseen battle may not be visible to the eyes of others, but it is felt deeply within her soul. This is why her silence is not emptiness. It is the sound of resilience echoing in the chambers of her heart. A woman with no support learns to rely on her inner strength and faith when no one else is around. In the beginning, this realization is not easy. For most people, the instinct is to look for someone to lean on, someone to share the burden with, someone to offer comfort in difficult times. But when the helping hand does not appear, when the expected support does not come, She is forced to look inward and discover resources she never knew existed. This is where her inner strength begins to take shape, not in times of comfort, but in moments of isolation. When a woman realizes that there is no one to hold her hand through the storm, she finds her own hands strong enough to carry her forward. She starts to understand that her worth cannot be measured by who stands beside her, but by how firmly she stands alone. Inner strength is not something that appears overnight. It is a muscle that develops slowly, tested by circumstances, strengthened by setbacks, and refined by persistence. Every time she chooses to rise instead of breaking, every time she chooses to walk forward instead of collapsing, she is exercising that strength within her. Faith becomes her companion in this silent journey. Faith in herself, faith in a greater plan, and faith in the unseen power that guides her even when everything feels uncertain. When she whispers a prayer in the middle of the night, not knowing how tomorrow will unfold, that prayer becomes her anchor. It reminds her that though she feels alone in the physical world, she is never truly abandoned. Faith allows her to walk through the darkest paths without being consumed by fear. It whispers hope when her mind tells her to give up. It reminds her that her story is not over, that every struggle has a purpose, and that her pain is preparing her for strength she cannot yet see. There are countless examples of women who, in the absence of support, discovered an incredible reservoir of resilience. Think of the mother who raises her children alone, juggling multiple jobs, sacrificing her own dreams to secure a future for them. She may not have the luxury of the emotional or financial support, yet her faith keeps her going. Or think of the young woman who fights against the doubts of society to pursue her education, working day and night to prove that her determination is stronger than the voices that tell her she cannot succeed. These are not just stories of survival. They are stories of transformation, where weakness turned into strength because support was absent. It is often in the absence of external support that a woman learns the value of standing on her own feet. She begins to trust her instincts, to make decisions with courage, and to carve her path with confidence. Instead of waiting for someone else to rescue her, she becomes her own savior. Instead of expecting others to validate her choices, she validates them with her own conviction. This shift is powerful. It is the moment she no longer sees herself as helpless, but as capable, resilient, and unstoppable. The truth is, support is a blessing, but the lack of it is not always a curse. Sometimes, it is the lack of support that forces a woman to unlock the hidden treasures of her spirit. It pushes her to realize her own power, her own capacity, and her own voice. And while the world may only see the results of her strength later on, she knows that it was born in those lonely hours when no one else was there to encourage her, except her own heart and her unshakable faith. Her struggles are not signs of weakness, but lessons that shape her resilience. Too often, society looks at a woman's pain and assumes it is a mark of fragility. We are conditioned to believe that tears mean surrender, that difficulties mean defeat, and that silence means helplessness. But in reality, every struggle a woman goes through is like a teacher, sometimes harsh, sometimes unforgiving, yet always purposeful. These lessons may not be understood in the moment of hardship, but over time they carve her into someone stronger, wiser, and more unshakable. Think of a seed buried under the soil. From the outside, it looks as if it is trapped, covered in darkness and unable to breathe. But that very pressure, that very confinement, is what pushes the seed to sprout roots and break through the soil. Similarly, when a woman is weighed down by struggles, it may appear as if she is stuck in darkness. But those struggles are not burying her. They are planting her deeper so that her roots of resilience can grow strong enough to withstand storms. Without that struggle, she would never discover how high she can rise. Every challenge she faces becomes a mirror, reflecting parts of herself she may not have seen before. In the fire of betrayal, she learns loyalty. In the experience of loss, she learns gratitude. In the midst of rejection, she learns self-acceptance. Each struggle strips away illusions and forces her to confront her raw strength. What others call suffering becomes her training ground. What others label as weakness becomes the very process that builds her inner steel. Consider the countless women who have risen from trials that seemed unbearable. The woman abandoned by loved ones learns the art of independence. The woman who failed in her career discovers a resilience that pushes her to rebuild stronger. The woman who endured heartbreak realizes that her worth was never tied to the acceptance of others. Each painful moment teaches her something life-changing. And over time, these lessons weave together into resilience. A resilience that cannot be broken easily because it has been tested again and again. The world often sees resilience as a trait some are born with. But for a woman, resilience is forged. It is created out of tears wiped away in silence, out of nights spent in doubt, out of mornings when she forced herself to rise despite her exhaustion. Every setback becomes like a hammer shaping her character. The more struggles she faces, the more unshakable she becomes. Resilience is not the absence of pain. It is the decision to keep going despite it. It is important to understand that struggles do not weaken her spirit, they refine it. A diamond is nothing more than carbon until it undergoes immense pressure. A pearl is simply an irritation inside an oyster until layers of resilience turn it into beauty. In the same way, the struggles of a woman are not meant to define her as broken, but to shape her into something priceless. What once seemed unbearable becomes the very foundation of her strength. Her resilience becomes her identity. She no longer sees herself as a victim of circumstances, but as a survivor, a fighter, a learner. And though the scars of her struggles may remain, she wears them with dignity, for they remind her of everything she has overcome. Struggles do not shrink her. They expand her capacity for courage, compassion, and perseverance. They remind her again and again that weakness is not in falling, but in refusing to rise. And she has risen. Every challenge faced alone transforms into a source of wisdom and maturity. Challenges are often feared because they come disguised as pain, uncertainty, or failure. But for a woman walking through life with no support, each challenge becomes more than just a hurdle. It becomes a lesson that teaches her something no book, no lecture, and no comfort zone could ever provide. In facing difficulties by herself, she is forced to think deeply, to make decisions carefully, and to look within for answers she once believed would come from others. This process slowly transforms her struggles into wisdom, and that wisdom matures her far beyond her years. When someone has people around to share every burden, decisions are often influenced by the voices of others. But when a woman stands alone, she must become her own guide. She learns to listen to her instincts, to trust her intuition, and to believe in her own judgment. Each wrong decision teaches her caution. Each right decision teaches her confidence. And together, they shape her into someone with wisdom that cannot be shaken by circumstances or opinions. The very challenges that once frightened her eventually become her greatest teachers. Wisdom is not born in moments of ease. It is born in moments of hardship. For instance, a woman who has faced betrayal learns to recognize genuine people from those who wear masks. A woman who has experienced poverty learns to value resources and practice gratitude for even the smallest blessings. A woman who has endured loneliness learns the importance of self-love and emotional independence. These insights do not come through comfort, they are born out of the fires of experience. And while others may still be learning these lessons through theory, she has lived them. That is why her wisdom carries so much weight. With wisdom comes maturity. Maturity is not about age. It is about understanding life beyond its surface. A woman who has faced challenges alone sees the world differently. She does not get easily shaken by setbacks because she has already endured storms greater than most people can imagine. She does not waste energy on trivial matters because her struggles have taught her what truly matters. She does not chase after temporary validation because she has learned the value of self-respect. This maturity makes her grounded, calm, and composed even when the world around her is chaotic. There is something remarkable about the kind of maturity that comes from facing life's battles alone. It teaches a woman not to expect perfection from life, but to embrace growth in every season. She no longer asks, "Why me?" but instead asks, "What is this teaching me?" This shift in perspective is a sign of her growth. It is the difference between someone who merely suffers and someone who learns from suffering. And when she chooses the latter, every challenge becomes a stepping stone, not a stumbling block. Over time, her wisdom and maturity become visible to those around her. People begin to seek her advice, to admire her calmness, and to wonder how she maintains her strength in the face of adversity. What they don't see is the lonely nights the silent tears, and the heavy burdens she once carried. What they do see is the fruit of those experiences. A woman who has been refined by her challenges, who has turned her pain into perspective, and who has learned to carry herself with dignity no matter the circumstances. Her challenges, though harsh, gift her something priceless. They make her wise enough to guide others, mature enough to remain steady, and strong enough to never be shaken by the storms of life again.